Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're talking about making a list of memories, using your good stuff every day, and leaving a little mess for guests. Join us as we do a mini deep dive into each of these fun topics. Let's get started. Listeners, last year we had an episode called Deep Thoughts about 3 essays in Real Simple magazine, and I'll put a link to that in our show notes. But now this year we have 3 more essays we want to discuss. 3 more mini deep dives into different ideas that generated some thoughts and discussion between us. And I love this kind of thing because I love hearing how other people interpret an idea and how it may have already played out in their life or how they imagine it will play out. And of course, I enjoy discussing all things with Julie and Mindy, so they're the perfect people to bounce these ideas with. What did you guys think about these essays?
I love that they were short and poignant. There's a lot packed in to just a few amount of words. And so I'm glad we're going to delve in deeper because there's a lot of implications, but an easy read.
Yeah, I always like these. They give you a lot to think about and just hearing somebody else's perspectives. And one of these really did touch home with me this time. So can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you use the word poignant, Mindy, because I feel like that's what I love. Things that are poignant. I'm always drawn to them. And I think that that's why I'm drawn to these essays every month is to see do they pull a heartstring or do they touch something for me? And they hardly ever disappoint. Anyways, our first essay is called A List of Memories Helped Me Move On. And the little subtitle is, After Selling Her Dream Home, Tara Put Pen to Paper and Found Perspective. Tara and her husband, they built their dream house. But she said she built it in a place that she absolutely loved in Naples, Florida, and she loved the house. And they had approved the blueprints 5 years earlier. They selected their land, their countertops. I mean, every little detail, it sounds like, was just what they'd been dreaming about. They even put in a pool designed to their exact specifications, and they had palm trees in their yard, which she absolutely loved. But her husband got a new job, and I've heard this scenario so many times throughout life. Like somebody will say, and we only got to live in our dream house 2 years, and then my husband got a different job. So it's very, very relatable. And she said she cried when they signed the contract to sell, and again when the movers packed up their things, and they cried when they handed over their keys for the last time. But then she decided to make a list. She didn't want to forget a single aspect of the house that she loved so much. The amazing water pressure in the shower, the variegated ginger plants under the dining room window, the way the light fixture over the kitchen table reflected off the pool at night. Just all these little details, and you can picture yourself like the things that you love about your own home. She just filled 2 pages in her journal with these little details. And then she said she felt better. It was almost like magic. But this was where the essay gets interesting because we all might think about writing down a list of things we love. But then she decided to take it one step further and list all the less than perfect things about her, in quotes, perfect house. And to her surprise, that list was even longer than the first. Some of the examples she gave was that the way her spare room turned office was always a little colder than the rest of the house, and the way there were tons of weeds in the front yard, and the creepy neighbor with the security cameras, just little things that had annoyed her. And I think that was just as cathartic for her, was to write down the things that were less than perfect. And she said that despite the house's flaws, her eyes still get a little watery when she thinks about the front doors where she'd stand and watch the afternoon storms roll in. And she says, but while I might not live in that house anymore, I've captured it on a few pieces of paper. I can look at my list anytime I want and remember the good, the bad, and the palm trees. And so that is just a summary of the exercise that she did. And it is so poignant because we can all imagine doing something like that. And so when I read that, I just thought, I don't know that I've ever done that. But I feel like it would be so helpful. What do you guys think about this exercise was so helpful for her?
Well, I'm just a list person in general. So I think lists help us document things that we normally might tend to forget. So I loved it. And I'll talk more about why I loved it later, but that's generally why I liked it, just because I think lists help us to remember things that we might forget otherwise. And I liked that she did remember the things she didn't like about it, because it just put everything in perspective. Like, she could easily feel like she was leaving perfection and there'd never be another thing to match it. But that's just not true.
Right. She's like, let's not romanticize how I felt about, that room being colder or whatever. But I do love that it seems to really help you work through your feelings about something that's very emotional. So I do like that she kind of gave a practical help to something going on the inside that you may not be able to put words to, but just kind of starting to make a list like that, I think would help you just kind of work through that situation.
Yeah, that word romanticize, I tend to do this, Mindy, romanticize things. And I think we do all tend to romanticize our memories of things. I think that even things we didn't like at the time or were wishing would change, sometimes we go back and romanticize it, because nothing is all good or all bad. And like when we're in the situation, we might be focused on the bad, but in retrospect, we get a different perspective and we see there was good. And so then we kind of, naturally start to focus on what was good, and the bad kind of fades to the back of our mind. Like, I do think that exercise of writing down the good and the bad kind of helps her to not fall into that later.
I think it helps you, just writing it down and journaling through it helps you just gain the right perspective, because that's probably at a very emotional time. So she could just lean into her feelings, but writing it down, she might see that it's actually not as bad as she feels about it.
Yeah. She's working through it.
Yeah. And she probably developed, a sense of gratitude over the whole experience and saw it for the way it really was, because our feelings, aren't always so accurate or truthful.
True. Right. I say it would help in future conversations about the house, with her husband. They're going to have many conversations. And I know it's kind of funny. Bryce and I've lived in enough houses that there was one, he walked the house and he was just a sad puppy to sell it. He was every room. Oh, I love this room so much. Like, this is just, why do we have to sell this house? And, he found the blueprints in the house and we took them with us, so he could build the house later. And I'm walking through the house saying, oh, this house was so drafty in here and we needed to update that. And I'm glad to be done with it. It was so funny because he and I both had such, but it helped both of us work through what was happening. For me to see the bright side and him to see the realistic side. I'll call it realistic. It was a little negative, but.
Yeah, but you may not view that house as negative now, as negative as you did at the time. No. And he may not romanticize it anymore as much as he did. Well, do you guys have any examples of when a list of memories like this did help you move on?
Well, this is the one that I really identified with because I feel like inadvertently, this is what I did with my Instagram account over the last 2 years. My No Place Like Home account. I kind of photo journaled all about my home for the last 2 years. And it was really more than just pictures. Like, I wrote about meaningful times and memories in that house. And I tried to document every room and all the outdoor spaces. I mean, not ever dreaming that I would leave it pretty soon after that. And I mean, I remember even capturing things about the light in the house, like she said, like light at different times of day or different seasons, and then how it made me feel. I wrote a lot about how I felt at different times. And I just can't help but wonder if that was from the Lord to kind of prompt me to do that. Like, it kind of helped me to savor it, like we talked about in the episode last week about savoring memories and then cementing those memories. Because now I have this permanent photo journal that I can go back and look at anytime I want and remember it in great detail. And, and I do remember the good and the hard there. And one of the hard things was I kind of still miss my yard and the flowers and the trees and the grass, but that's one of the things I left it for. I think, no, that was a lot of hard work and maintenance, like daily, to keep those weeds out of the bed and trim those trees and trim the bushes. And and mulch it and, all of that. So, and I do remember how cold that house was. Oh, we could never get warm. Summer or winter, it was freezing.
Right.
And I never just loved my den. I could never get it right. I could never arrange it right. It was always a little small for the rest of the house. So I wouldn't say it was my dream home because I didn't build it, but we spent 24 years kind of trying to make it into that. Mm-hmm. So there were things I absolutely loved about it. And then there were things that I was not satisfied with that I wish were different. So I think it's good to remember it like it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you have an example, Mindy?
I do. The thing that came to mind with this was an event that we had in our family. And so I've mentioned 2 years ago, how there was just a lot happening. I've talked about the transition from Tennessee to Georgia, living separate from Bryce for 3 months, buying a home, moving, and also Abby getting married. So the event actually that I thought about was Abby's wedding, because it was in the middle of so many things happening and a major life transition. And I remember thinking, like, we even went into it sick. Like, Marie, you remember sitting in the ceremony, I start to cough and I feel like I'm about to die. I cannot breathe. I need my inhaler. I don't have my inhaler. I'm on the front row. I'm the mother of the bride. Anyways, Marie hands me her daughter's water and I survive and don't make a scene. Praise the Lord. But so the wedding happened and we knew we were about to move towns and houses and all of that the next day. But we also had a lot of family there. And so I wanted to give it my full attention and I didn't want it to just breeze past. I didn't want to just check the box. I mean, this is my daughter getting married and I just wanted to savor it. And it was hard to savor it because of all the things happening surrounding the situation. And so we did all of the things. The next morning we wake up in the hotel room and I just have this urge to get by myself. And so I tell Bryce, I said, I'm just going to run to Starbucks and I just need a little moment to myself. I go to Starbucks across the street and I take my journal with me and my Bible and I sit in the van with my coffee and probably for 2 hours I'm there and I'm just writing down everything that happened with the wedding, all of the people that came, all of the conversations that I had, all of the memories that I had, how I felt, seeing certain people, how I felt seeing Abby, how I felt watching Joey, how I felt with my husband, realizing, this major life event had happened. We had prayed for years. Again, I needed to feel it and see it and savor it and list it out so that it didn't just quickly pass. Cause I knew as soon as I was done with my van alone time, we were driving to Georgia into a new house and I was going to want to savor that too. They both needed their moments. And so that was a time I filled up many pages in my journal, just writing every detail, feeling emotion that I could possibly imagine. Cause I needed to be present for that.
Yeah. I'm sure you felt like you had to capture one moment before you could add something else to it.
Yeah. I couldn't move on. It was too important. It was too special. And it was sandwiched in there with a lot of other life events. So it was truly special to get, it helped me though. When I was done, I was done. I had felt all of the feelings and remembered all the things. And then I knew it was documented. And somehow I just felt like I could let it go and take the next step.
Can you guys think of any other times in life where this would be helpful for people other than moving?
Well, Mindy's kind of already mentioned weddings, but maybe like kids growing up, leaving home, going to college. That's a really bittersweet time when you're excited, but you can be sad too. So there's a lot of feelings to kind of sort through. It's just a good way to kind of examine your life and highlight the good and remember that it wasn't perfect. I know, like when I'm sad now about not traveling, I kind of recount all our trips and I look at the pictures of all the places we've been. And I think I'm so glad we got to go to all those places and do all these things and have all those experiences. So I'm glad I have my list in air quotes, through photos and photo journaling.
Right. I'll say I kind of use this. I wrote down similar things to what Julie mentioned, like a child's senior year of high school. I know I'm going to start documenting things as Jacob starts to walk this path. It's kind of like a mom with her, the first year of a baby's life. You kind of document things. But I also use it on the flip with trying to make healthy living choices. I remember back and I have to list out sometimes to stay in my healthy living. I have to remember and list out how I felt with the other choices that I was making. When the years that I wasn't making healthy choices, how I felt, not just my size or my shape, but it was mental, it was emotional. And so it helps me still choose better today by remembering that too.
Yeah. I love that about kids' stages, because all through motherhood, it seems like society's urging us to always mourn the passing of whatever stage they're in. And so I think it is good to write a list of memories of those stages, or, go through photographs of those stages, or call to mind stories from those stages, but then also be realistic about what else was in that stage. And that will help you embrace the new stage. Pretty much every stage is great for some reasons. And then for some reasons, it's also happy to move on.
Yeah, there's drawbacks too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No stage was perfect.
Every senior in high school needs to leave the house. Right. I'm telling you, there's a reason.
Right. Right. So anyways, this little essay is it's a great way to think about anything in life, that sometimes it's good to just make a little list, whether you call it pro-con, whether you call it a list of great things about memories and then more realistic. All of it just helps us to process, but just being honest about how you felt at the time. All right, Mindy, there was another essay. Why don't you lead us into what that one was?
Yes. Okay. The title of the next essay that we all read was Use Your Good Stuff Every Day. After losing her husband, Erica stopped saving her nice things for later and started celebrating the now. This was another poignant article. I don't know how else to describe it. So the article is about Erica and her husband, John. And Erica grew up in a home where she saw the china on the shelves and she saw the nice glasses, and they never used them. They just collected dust. And so when it came to her wedding, she just followed suit. She did the same thing. They got all the china, they got the nice dishes, and then they sat on the shelf. Well, unfortunately, 4 months after her and her husband, John, were married, he was diagnosed with an incurable brain cancer called glioblastoma. So for the next 2 years, they were in and out of hospital rooms and doctor's offices. And so all of the things that had been sitting on the shelf never got used. Unfortunately, John passed away. And when she had to move, she realized they never actually lived with their stuff. They never used it. And so her kind of realization was that she was going to start using the nice things even for heating up pizza or, normal everyday things. And so she eats leftovers off of the wedding china. And so she's trying to actually use the things that were nice instead of saving them for that, unknown moment or house party that never got to happen. So a really sad situation with wisdom in there for all of us.
So have you guys ever fallen into this trap? Like what examples do you have of times when you've fallen into this trap?
Well, I have fallen into this trap more so with my clothes because I save them, not wearing them, so nothing bad can happen to them. And I've even bought 2 of the same shirt just in case something did happen to it. I'd still have another. But as far as using, I did get china and crystal and silver. I've been pretty good about using it. I mean, I don't use it every day, but I do like pretty things. And as my kids have gotten older, I've just said, I'm going to use these. I'm not going to save them for a holiday. So I like to leave my table set. And I've said this before, I use cloth napkins now because I know there's been times when I thought, oh, it's just the two of us. Maybe we should just use paper plates and paper cups. But something inside has always resisted that. It's like, no, how much easier it is to put things in the dishwasher with two people, you know, because it doesn't fill it up instantly. Like I can use the nice glasses. I can use the china for lunch, you know, because it's just not hard to get it clean now. So, so I do try to keep that in mind. Like that's what these are for. Like these things are meant to serve me, not the other way around, for me to just store it, you know, enjoy it or get rid of it. If I'm not going to enjoy it, I just need to let it go.
I have a funny story about my parents actually that they told me, and it cracked me up. So every time they come to our house, we have a system. The dishwasher you load it through the day. I turn it on at night. Jacob empties it in the morning and we start over. So my parents always comment on the dishwasher because they hand wash everything. Now in their house, they actually have bought, I think they're on their second dishwasher, and they burn out or they don't work anymore for lack of use. They bought this high-end dishwasher and they don't use it. And so then it stops working because they don't use it.
Right.
I had a plumber tell me that one time. And so anyways, that's a funny, not funny story that I'll tell on my parents. But otherwise, yeah, kind of like Julie with clothes. I'm going to say I'm not saving the clothes because I'm afraid I'm going to mess them up. I'm actually just lazy enough to not put on the nice clothes. And then by the time I want to wear them, they either don't fit or they're out of style. And, when I'm wiping dust off of certain things and I'm like, that really shouldn't have dust on it. That's a bad sign if you have dust on your nice stuff that's in your closet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, like I just thought about certain pieces that were really nice that we would only use for like a party that got broken in a move.
Oh,
and,
true.
And it's like, I should have put chips or popcorn in that nice bowl.
Right.
But alas, I can no longer use it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I've gotten better about this over the years, but I'm thinking of even like people that will continue to use like ratty towels, but save nice towels for guests.
Right.
Or they will buy like nicer throw blankets, but yet they'll only use the older ones for every day. You know what I'm saying? Right. I try to avoid that. Like Julie said, especially as your kids get older. I mean, when your kids are young, you're going to turn all your good things into rags if you just throw them at the mercy of preschoolers. But as your kids get older, you can start to use those. And it almost is a mindset that you have to break out of. I do that with my clothes too, Julie. Like, I'm really trying not to do that. I'm really trying right now to get rid of clothing that prevents me from using the clothes that I should be wearing, because I'll just fall back into this ratty thing. If I got rid of the ratty thing, then that wouldn't even be an option,
Good idea.
Yeah.
It's almost like I need to remove the temptation. But Julie, in particular, we've actually talked about this before in our Gretchen Rubin book. I think it might have been Happier at Home. And why don't you tell this story? Because it sticks with me, and it's like a life lesson where you had bought some special tea.
Oh, yeah. I had bought some tea when I was in London, and it was beautiful loose sleeve tea, and it had rose petals in it or something, and I brought it home, and I just couldn't bear to use it because it was so pretty and it smelled so good. In the tin can it was in, and I remember, kind of rearranging the cabinet and pulling it out one day, and it was all dried up. It didn't smell, it was years later. And so I had saved it for nothing. So really it was just totally wasted then instead of, so, in my mind, I must have been thinking to drink it on a not special occasion would be wasting it. And then I did waste it. You know?
I don't know why that one in particular sticks with me.
Yes.
Well, one thing that came to mind, because I did think about the tea story, and I thought, no, I have a new story now.
Okay.
After we moved, I'm putting things in the new house, and things don't always go where they went before. So I had this little hand hooked rug, a little wool rug, and it has a black dog in the middle of it and like a little bone and a dog house. It's so cute. And it's always been a wall hanging in my kitchen. I had sewn little hooks on the back and hung it on the wall because I thought no one needs to ever walk on this, because even though it is a rug, I hung it on the wall. So in this house, I didn't really have a place to put it. So I took the hooks off and I put it right in front of my front door. When you walk in, that's the door mat. The other day I was going out and I noticed the cat had thrown up right in the middle of it.
No way.
So here it is, this pristine thing. It's never had a foot on it. And then bam, my cat throws up on it. And I thought, it's like, I could just see the cat. Oh, Mom, I almost didn't make it to the rug, but see, I did. Aren't you proud?
I think she's upset. It's a picture of a dog down there.
But here it is, this whole hallway of hardwood, and she makes it to the little 2x2 rug.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like, oh, this is why you can't have anything nice.
You're like, I'm going back to saving things. This is why I save things.
I saved this for years. So it did clean up. So
yeah.
Oh.
Well, I can't tell you the number of times we've cleaned out. I'll just use Steve's closet as an example over the years, because I know this happens to me too. But like, I'll be like, look, you've got too many shirts. We're cleaning them out, or too many of this. And there'll be things even with tags on it. Do you want to keep this? Well, not really. It's kind of out of style now. Well, why didn't you wear it? I don't know. I was saving it. It seemed too good. Like, we all do that. We all think, well, this is too special, or I don't want to take the tags off this and break it in, or I don't know. I think the older I get, the sadder that seems. And so I want to avoid it even more.
I saw something really good the other day. I think it was on Instagram, and I'm going to try it because I, like you, Marie or Mindy, I'm kind of lazy about getting dressed, and I just gravitate to the same. I have a stack of jeans and pants, and I wear two, and I have lots of shirts, and I just kind of go to the same 4 or 5. So this lady said once a year she turns all her hangers around backwards, and then what she wears, she'll turn it around as she wears it. So at the end of like 6 months or however often you go through your closet, the ones that are still turned around at the end of that time, she just gets rid of because they do kind of keep you, I don't know, it just makes it harder to get dressed when you have too many choices. So I liked that idea. So I know it's a common problem. We're not the only one.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I can relate to this article. Life is short. You can't take it with you. And most likely, nobody else wants it. That's an added thing now that we can add. So it's very freeing knowing I don't have to preserve it for future generations. If I'm not going to use it up, then it's just not going to get used. So I might as well get everything out of it. So that makes it easier to use things. And I loved a quote that she included. She said, just being together was reason enough to use the good stuff. She was talking about her china. And I love that perspective. Like, every day is worth celebrating. You don't have to wait for, quote, a special occasion to use your good stuff. Like, you're a good enough reason. And, after her husband passed away, she was a good enough reason. Like, it didn't even have to be them together. She was enough to use the good stuff. And, I just don't ever want to get to a point, I hope I don't, where I don't decorate or keep my house clean because I could say nobody sees it, but I see it. True. And that should be enough.
That's right. That's right.
Good word, Julie. All right, Julie, why don't you summarize our third article? Okay, this article was entitled, "A Little Mess is Good for Guests." She said so many times people, clean their house till it's spotless. And then when company arrives, they say, "Oh, sorry for the mess." And then the guest says, "What mess?" It's kind of a little charade, she said. But she said in her case, her guest can't say what mess because she really has a mess. And she said she learned that no matter how hard she cleaned and how hard she tried to make it spotless, she learned her limits and knows that no matter how hard she tries, her home will never be spotless. So she's just stopped feeling bad about it. She said she doesn't expect people to overlook her mess. She expects them to see it and love her anyway. She thinks of her mess as even a kindness
it says, add your mess to mine and get comfortable. She hopes that people think, well, at least my house isn't as bad as hers, and they will be more likely to invite her over.
I love this article because my inner Marie really wants to have a super clean house. But my life circumstances with 5 kids has never really allowed for that. And I know some people that have really, really super clean houses. And then I'll get down on myself and then I'll be like, but no one's messing that up. Like, stop beating yourself up. Like, and there have been times when certain family members, extended family members of mine, have come over, like for a special occasion, like maybe Mother's Day or Christmas, and they'll be like, wow, it really looks great in here, Marie. But I know they're kind of saying it like, this is unusual.
They're surprised.
Because they also come over on normal days. And so I know that my normal house is not an impressive level of clean, even though I want it to be. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, yes, I have had to, by default, because kids make you humble, I've had to adopt this attitude of, well, I'm making other people feel more comfortable. I don't want to be off-putting or whatever.
Well, and you want to keep having people over, even in those like more busy, stressful, I'll say it's more stressful to have people over when you have all the little people around. But you don't want to stop being hospitable and you don't want to run yourself ragged. So it really is hard. That I remember making a concerted effort too, to chill. Like I had to let things go more than what I was comfortable with.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression that this lady had children. So in my opinion, she takes it way farther than I could ever take it. We've talked about this in our hospitality episodes. Like, obviously we shouldn't strive for perfection. Like, we don't want to sterilize our houses and make people feel more uncomfortable because they can't be comfortable or make a little mess. But I'm not comfortable if my house is a mess. I like my house clean. So it doesn't feel relaxing if you can't find a place to set something, or the blankets are so filthy that you're sitting under to watch TV, or it feels chaotic and stressful. So I think there's kind of a fine line here. Yes, it doesn't have to be pristine, but there's a difference between totally gross and lived in comfy.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't get the impression though that she was totally gross. I think that I just got the impression that there was evidence of other people like coming along behind her and undoing what she did.
We live here.
Yeah.
Like we live here.
Yeah. Recently, I was having people over. I think it might have been Mother's Day. And I had cleaned the downstairs, but I have 3 college kids home, and my upstairs, I've just had to accept the fact that it's going to look like a bomb went off until they go back in August, because they've brought home all their dorm stuff. They constantly have stuff in and out, and they're using the bathroom upstairs. And my daughter-in-law starts climbing up the stairs, and I'm like, Maddie, what are you doing?
Don't do it.
Bathroom's downstairs. She's like, no, I need to use the upstairs bathroom. She goes, is that okay? And I said, oh, sure, because I want to be accommodating, but I'm thinking, I can smell steam. I know Isaac came out of that bathroom 5 minutes ago, quickly taking a shower before company comes. Like, what does it even look like in there? What is she going to think? Like, all these things run through my mind so quickly. I immediately start saying, well, Isaac just got out of the shower. Let me just run in there and see if it's even presentable. But, I don't know. I think and it wasn't that the bathroom was like gross. It's just that someone lives there, and I could clean it daily, and still by 3:00, it's going to be lived in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how comfortable do you guys feel letting other people see your house? Like, at what level of cleanliness is your standard, I guess? We got to get honest here on Midlife Matters.
I guess the things that really make me cringe would be if the bathrooms were dirty and then pet messes, like lots of hair, or the litter box hadn't been cleaned out, or that kind of makes me on high alert, because I don't know if people don't have pets, they probably could think, how do you live here? Like, this isn't sanitary.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so that's kind of my the line that I have to draw. It's like, gosh, these at least these two things have to be done.
Right. How about you, Mindy?
Well, I do have an embarrassing story that I won't go into of a child clogging up a guest bathroom in our basement when the guests were arriving, and I didn't know. That was awful. I'm happy to say we're past that stage. But now of course, I was never comfortable with that. Those people felt so comfortable in our home. I mean, I can't tell you the jokes, even to this day, that always comes up. Remember? Yes, I remember.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's like we're living in our home. And I'm telling you, if we're home on the weekends and we're doing stuff and having fun, inevitably somebody is going to take an afternoon nap on the couch that's in the main living room, and the pillows are strewn and there's blankets all over. And so my comfort level is the blankets put away and the pillows like at least propped up. There could be some clutter. I don't want to see, evidence of boys using the half bath. At that point, I think if those things are kind of picked up and, then I'm like, there might be some crumbs on the floor. I'll get that later.
Yeah.
What is it with boys? Like, I remember at our old house, we had our bedroom was down with a bathroom, and then we had a hall bathroom, and then all the other bathrooms were upstairs, in the bedrooms. But right before company, our son would go into that bathroom and use it. Like, why?
It's like a dog marking his territory.
Yeah, even my husband, like, oh, you have your own bathroom. Why would you use that one? And, you could see the door from the front door. So there was no hiding anything. It's like, I just don't get that.
How many matches can you light after that? I mean,
sometimes after I clean it, I put a sign and shut the door and it says like right by the handle, do not use.
Oh,
like before people come over. Yeah.
I'm going to have to get a sign.
I mean, I just write it on a piece of paper, but
you post it.
You need one of those orange cones and a mop bucket like they do at the
right.
Yeah.
Give it a minute.
Yeah.
But how do you guys feel about the level? Because if I'm a listener and I'm hearing like my friends say something like this, then I'm going to think, oh my goodness, what if they dropped by and my house wasn't up to their XYZ standard? How do you feel about other people's homes? Because I really think there's a lot to be said here to set people's minds at ease.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we know when you ring the doorbell, you're not getting in any of our houses, right?
We're hiding.
We don't
That's right.
the door
because nobody's even coming to the door.
Who is ringing the doorbell?
True,
but if we were to open it, no, I don't look at other people's dirt like I do my own. So
true.
I think that's true of everybody. I don't know. I don't hold people to the same standard as I hold myself. So yeah, it just doesn't bother me. I can't say that I've ever been somewhere where I thought, oh wow, this is
right.
They should have cleaned up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I genuinely get happy and excited if I come over and somebody is like, oh, like, I was doing laundry and it's strewn all over the living room. Like that thrills me to death. I feel so at home, so at ease. And I'm like, these are my people. I really do feel good now, as long as there's not like mold growing in the bathroom. If it's clean, like I'll say, there's a difference between clutter and cleanliness.
Yeah, clean and messy are two different things.
Know. Yeah. I'm all about a little mess.
I'm comforted. I'm comforted by someone else's mess because it makes me know that if I ever have them over, they're not going to be harsh judges. And so I'm comforted. I don't know why I don't give other people the benefit of the doubt that they'll also be comforted by my mess, but I am comforted by other people's.
Yeah.
I think the deeper implication of this article is just like anything in life. It's like if you're vulnerable enough to share your faults. It could be a personal fault. It could be, a hardship that you're going through, or it could just be the messiness in your house. If you're vulnerable enough to show the messiness in your house or your life, other people in turn feel like they can be vulnerable with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Just being honest. That's really what that is. Just
It's very humbling when we can't present to the world what we want to present.
It is humbling. And then it's kind of a welcome relief when, you're kind of forced into a situation like that. And it makes friendships grow deeper, relationships grow deeper.
So I think we said that on the hospitality podcast that where we said it's really placing yourself in a vulnerable situation, letting someone into kind of the inner sanctum,
into the imperfect, the picture you didn't want them to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And I almost feel honored to be, to have the person feel so comfortable around me that they don't mind. Like Julie, even your move, I'm not saying your house was messy. I'm just saying like your move, and I don't know if you felt like this, but it was a very vulnerable position to be in. I felt like, because like you just turned me and a friend loose in your 24-year-old library full of mementos and things you've stuck between pages of books and things you've collected, and you're like, pack it. And I don't know that I would necessarily feel comfortable. I'd want to do like a pre-pack or something. You know what I'm saying?
Did you feel, what did we find?
Well, no, but did you feel vulnerable in that, or is that just my own hang up?
Not really. But I remember one day, I don't think you were there. I had a different friend over helping me. And oh my gosh, just like everything was going wrong. I think we ended up having to take John to the hospital that day, and people were calling me and asking me questions. We had workmen in the house, and I don't know, things were just a mess. It was like everything was falling apart that day. And she said, wow, she goes, I really needed to see that, because then I know like what you're going through. Like she goes, I didn't realize it was this bad. And I felt it that day. I just felt like I am losing control here. Like this is not how I wanted it to be. Everything was a mess. And it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't about cleanliness, but yes, my whole house was in upheaval. And so, that did feel a little weird, that people were just seeing it like it was.
Well, yeah, like just packing up your whole kitchen, like just everything was like, whatever, any door, like there's a certain protocol to relationships, and I've never before gone into your home and just started opening doors willy-nilly. But when you're helping someone pack, it's much more intimate than if you just came over for dinner.
Oh yeah, like you're not looking in closets, under sinks, under beds, all of that. So
So I didn't know if that did make you feel vulnerable, because I feel like it would make me feel vulnerable.
Yeah. You saw cat hair in the cabinets and
I didn't notice.
One thought that I had, just since we're in the summer months and we've talked about kids being home, this has been an opportunity for my teenagers and my college age son to see me in the dailiness that they don't usually see. Like mom has become more real to them. They'll see me more if I'm having a bad day or if I'm having a good day. But a lot of times they're gone enough that when they're home, I can present, I can have dinner, or things are in order. And so them being home and having a lot of time together, it's neat because they're seeing me as a person in a season that they wouldn't typically see. They see the down times, the times that they don't usually get to witness. And I think it's created a closeness, that I'm real to them in a way that I wasn't when I'm just mom and prepared when they come home to be mom.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to keep up the facade 24/7.
Yeah, that's not happening. I'm the one on the couch adults with the blanket.
And they're adults. So you're right. They see you differently, I'm sure, as adults.
Yes. Yes.
Or relate to you as adults. I mean,
It's true. It's true. Yeah, you become very real.
Right. All right. Well, this is good. Listeners, we hope that you've enjoyed our discussion of these 3 little ideas. I know that they provide a lot of food for thought for me. We'd love to hear your thoughts if you want to find us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast, or if you want to come and find us, if you want to email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. But before we go, we want to do I'm a Fan. All right, Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
This week, I'm a fan of being weekend warriors with your spouse. For Bryce and my 26th anniversary, we bought each other 3 pallets of sod. And
is that the typical gift for that year?
Grass.
We touched grass. We literally touched so much grass. So yeah, a year ago we were, in Sedona and the Grand Canyon. It was awesome. And this year we're like, we want to buy sod. And sod is an investment. And it's also very physically laborious. And in the middle of installing the 3 pallets of sod, our kitchen faucet broke. So,
oh no, you can't even wash your hands.
Listen, it was so funny. Grant is home and he's trying to unclog a shower drain, and him and my husband are watching YouTube videos on how to get, the faucet undone and installing the new faucet. And these are things we have never done. Now, we've unclogged drains before, but we have never replaced a kitchen faucet before.
That is so surprising with all the houses you've lived in.
I know. We've always tacked it on to having a plumber over, doing other things. We're like, oh, and by the way, can you do that while you're here too? So, Bryce did it and Grant helped, and laying sod, preparing the ground, things like that. It just was really exhilarating to do these projects that will give us, instant gratification in our yard and in our home. And it really was a gift working alongside one another, figuring out new things, sweating, getting dirty. I mean, it was a lot of fun. We had a blast.
Well, that's good. Not a lot of people would say that after a weekend of warrior together.
There was no fighting.
Really?
Yes. Yes. We did so good. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's good.
Well, happy 26th.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
I'm a fan of something I picked up at Trader Joe's. It's their lemon ricotta ravioli.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's their fresh ravioli in the refrigerated section. And I was just in there getting some stuff that I normally buy, and I thought, I'm going to try this. And it was just very light and refreshing. It was a good summer meal. And it's kind of in a small package. So there was probably, let's say, 2 servings, and I had a little bit left over for the next day. So, I just used some of their marinara sauce on it. And it was really, really good.
Oh, that's good. So, I wish my family liked ravioli so bad, because it's such an easy meal and there's so many good flavors out there.
Well, I thought you had bought the lobster ravioli there, and I couldn't find it.
Only Steve and I like ravioli. So it has to be a time when only we're home. Otherwise, I'd have to make 2 meals.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. Right. I looked for it and I couldn't find it.
The lobster ravioli is at Costco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've gotten the other flavors at Trader Joe's, though. All right. This week, I'm a fan of a Christian fiction series, which I'm not normally a fan of Christian fiction because it's usually so predictable. But this one I really enjoyed. This is called the Out of Egypt series, and it says, travel along with an Egyptian slave, a young Hebrew midwife, and a Canaanite captive in the best-selling series that spans from the great exodus from Egypt through the wilderness and into the promised land. And I was really interested in it because I like historical fiction because you learn about something. And the first book is all about what it would have been like living through the plagues. What was it like when Moses turned the water into blood? And what is it like when it was dark, like pitch black for 3 days and 3 nights? And this is from the perspective of a slave. And so she's living in one of the Egyptian homes. And so you get what it was like from
both sides.
Yeah, from both sides. It was just so interesting. And then
I think I would love that.
Yeah, the second and third books go through when they part the Red Sea and what it was like wandering in the wilderness, being fed by manna. Just what was that like? And I know it's not a firsthand account necessarily, but the person did research, and it's probably about as good of an idea as I'm going to get from someone telling a story. So I felt like it was interesting. If you want to check out, she also has other series. I went ahead and read all the series that she had, but this one was the one that I liked the best. And her name is Connellan Cossette, Cossette. So her Out of Egypt series is really good if you want to check that out.
Oh, I love that, Marie. Great recommendation.
Yeah. All right, you guys, keep reading. Probably next year we'll be discussing some other essays. Love always hearing you guys' perspective.
Yeah, I liked these a lot.
Yeah, it was so good.
To think about.
All right. Well, we'll talk with you next week.
All right.
Bye.
We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.